Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gilead's Sketchbook Live, which used to be Gilead's Sword and Sorcery Sketchbook Live, and I don't know if it is anymore. But it's, I don't know. I don't even know if it's a sketchbook. I'm pretty sure it's live. I've got this book. Have had it for a number of years. I took a painting class at the community college with a lady who's, this was a book that she wanted us to take, and I enjoy this book a lot. It's got a painting style. That's not quite my style, although I admire this style very much, and sometimes want to paint like this. But I do not have a history of painting like this. And I've decided, you know what, I want to paint like this. The painting that I worked on yesterday was a bit more, well, a bit like this, not quite. He wouldn't have done. He would have screamed if he heard me making any claim that I'm painting like him. And he would have said, "No, that's not true." Um, the thing is, he's very much the limited palette kind of guy that you should use red, yellow, and blue, and mix all of your and white, and mix all of your colors from that. Um, don't use anything else, any out of the tube colors. Um, I've got a heap of tube colors. I'm going to use them. They're going to dry up if I don't. So even if I buy into his philosophy completely, I'm going to use up the materials that I have, because I'm trying to relearn. I made the statement in my post this morning that things can happen to you that set you back, and you may not have to start over from the absolute beginning, but you have to drop back a ways and start over. And I'm definitely in that position. I haven't done a lot of paintings. Actually, in a couple of years, I've only finished a handful of paintings, and that's not a lot. That's not a daily practice by any means. And the weather's cooling off a bit. I can spend more time outdoors, and I'm going to devote some of that freedom to painting. I also don't seem to get any hours at my store anymore. I've put in applications all over the freaking place, and I'm not getting any traction there. So I may have to be selling paintings. It is something I know how to do, sort of. And but here in Gilbert, Arizona, in the year 2025, I believe it is, I don't think I'm going to sell very many sword and sorcery paintings here, or sword and sorcery drawings here, if I'm just going to a show. I am presenting my talents as a sword and sorcery illustrator directly to pretty much everybody on the planet right now who produces at least English language sword and sorcery. And I am not getting a hell of a lot of traction with that. Once in a while, I do a job, and that job results in about as much money as I would make in a week if I were working in a grocery store. So it's good. I love it. I like to do it, but I'm not going to claim that this is that's where it's at. Landscapes may be where it's at. I don't know. Wildlife, birds, that kind of thing. So I'm having to, by necessity, point myself a little bit more in that direction. This is closer to what I was going for in yesterday's painting, and although he just uses the three colors, but when he does these tree branches and stuff, he paints a large area and then comes in and cuts the sky out from in between the twigs, which you saw me attempting to do um, yesterday, and with limited success. But that's the sort of effect that I was going for, and I'll go back and try again. So that is that little spot right there. It's a little close up of it. So that's the sort of thing. So here's his sort of thing. That's the photograph he's working from. Here's how he starts his silhouette of trees, and then he carves the background out from around that, the sky and the clouds, and then he comes in and does the highlights, the more detailed lights and colors on the tree, and so it's not just a big black shape like you get often from a photograph. When you're photographing the sunset, frequently you get black silhouettes of trees, but if you were actually there, that's not what you were seeing. If you can remember, or if you notice at the time, you can actually see quite a few of the colors of the trees and quite a few of the details. But you forget that when you look at the photos later on. You think, oh yeah, it was just bright sky and black silhouettes of trees. It's not really. The camera does that. The camera simplifies that, but you don't have to in your paintings, and that's part of the point that he was making here. His approach to that. All right, so I liked the book. Presumably it says in the introduction that he still teaches at Scottsdale College, community college or art college or something like that. And then it also says he lives in Taos, which is not close by. So I don't know, maybe he teaches workshops or something. I've never met him, but my painting teacher really loved that book and that approach. It was very much the way she approached things. Okay. I did this little sketch in my little pocket sketchbook some time ago, and then much more recently I just sketched it on this paper. I taped that off this morning, and I tried to do a fantasy painting the way, I tried to go the way he would have done it in this book. I tried to say, okay, how would he have mixed the colors? So I actually used his color palette, cadmium red medium, or no, it wasn't. It was alizarin crimson, cadmium yellow medium, ultramarine blue, and lots of white. And so everything on this page has been whitened down to get all these different shades of grays and the sky blue and the purple mountain and shadows and all that. I wanted that purple unifying color, and I have lots of tubes of purple, but I decided, since I was reading this, I said, okay, I'm gonna make him proud, and I'm gonna make my painting teacher proud, and I'm gonna do this the way he would have done. So yesterday's painting was not the way. His name's Kevin McPherson. Yesterday's painting was not the way Kevin McPherson would have done. Today's painting is the way Kevin McPherson would have done, except I think he would die before he painted dragons, but that's all right. Each to their own. Stellar is here, yay. Okay, so that was as far as I could get with that method. I started doing the dragon and the little details, and I couldn't get much better, I used those two brushes. Everything you're looking at on this page was those two brushes. I start trying to do finer brushes, and I just start to fumble. I make, I'm trying to outline this, with white or something, and I wind up with white up here or whatever. I'm not that controlled with it yet. So I did enjoy that process, and I got something like what I was imagining. And now at this point I'm saying, all right, but I want, oh, hi, I want a cat, apparently is what I want. I'm saying I want something a bit more illustrative at this point. This is not a very illustrative picture at this point. So I started thinking, okay, colored markers. But those markers, they're dark. I don't have any markers that are going to give you that. I've got a purple, but it's a vivid dark purple. It's not going to give me that pale kind of lavender. Nothing that I have is going to do that. So, and that would just skew the whole thing far away from where I'm trying to go. So, what am I going to do? What will I do? What will I do? I'm going to use some Derwent Inktense markers. Not markers, Inktense pencils. I cannot see what that says, but I think it's black. I don't think I want that. I'm going to try to avoid black. I'm going to put the black over there just in case I chicken out, but okay, deep indigo. Do I need deep indigo? Probably not. Sun yellow? Gosh, I don't know. There's some other water-soluble pencils in here that I'm not going to try on this particular picture because they're going to be graphite gray, pencil gray. And I've already got color on here, and I don't want to kill it with that dead of a color. So I don't want to do that. Iris blue is probably too intense a blue. Red oxide, okay, that might be a thing. Let's see, outliner. I don't know what that does. I just have it. I don't know what it is. Tangerine, maybe. What else have I got? Baked earth. That's a brown. Okay, get that out there. Poppy red. Yeah, maybe. Did I? Maybe. Ink black. Well, I know that one's ink black, so I'll put that over there. I'll put this in here because I really don't know what it is. Some of these are not marked very well, and now that my eyes have gone, I don't know, there's some kind of brown, so I'm going to put it over there. Golden yellow, yes. Apple green, no. Payne's gray, yeah, that's a good mixing color. So charcoal gray, probably not, since I got the Payne's gray. Sea blue, maybe, probably not. Bright blue, no. India ink, no. Leaf green, maybe so. So that I can't tell what it is. Sienna gold, sure, why not? Bark, that's a dark brown, I like that. Fuchsia, that's as close as I'm going to get to the lavender that I've done. Teal green is too intense. And this is neutral gray, maybe. Maybe we'll do that. Alright. We've got all that over here. and I'm scared. I'm scared. All right, I'm gonna use bark. It's a dark brown. Now this author I just shared with you, Wood's Gold Mantis point. He doesn't use browns, pre-mixed earth tones. Something he's very much against, teaches against. It's against his manifesto. But I need some hard, sharp lines that I just am not achieving it in my paint. It's not that the paint can't do it, it's that I can't do it. Not yet. I'm very, very good at starting projects, and then I reach a point where I kind of lose my nerve, and I'm losing my nerve because something I'm trying is not working out the way I was hoping for it to do, and I kind of don't know how to go forward, or I realize that up until this point, maybe this whole thing could, nothing was permanent, nothing was a disaster. If you do it wrong, you can just undo it. And then maybe you get to a point where you say, okay, if I do this, though, that really ruined it. And so now you want to go, oh, I don't want to do it. And, of course I got to get over that. You have to get over that. But it's a thing that happens to me. I'm using fuchsia to do some of my fuchsia and bark. Bark's a dark brown, fuchsia's purple. I want to kind of mix those two together and see what happens. I'm going to use fuchsia over here as well. I'm doing little dots, like little, like he has alternate scales that are different colors. Like every color on him wouldn't be the exact same color. So I want him to have little spots of different color. It may all blend together. This stuff is water soluble, so I'm going to go over it with water here pretty quick. And, it might just all mudge together. Mudge, that's a word. Look it up. It'll have my name next to it. Mudge. It might all mudge together and become non-distinct, and you'll say, well, why did he bother with all the little dots? It just turned into a color. That's because and that is the reason. This character, is the brave and intrepid dragon hunter. Or at least he was when he left town. He's not so sure about it now. I was out in the midst of the woods one time. I guess I was a teenager. We'll say I was a teenager because you don't know any different. I'll say I was a teenager. And I can say that because, you know, I wasn't always a teenager when I was out by myself in the woods. Pre-teens, I did that sort of thing. Yeah, my parents weren't negligent. They just thought I was down the street at the neighbor's house. But I was off in the woods exploring, and I did not, on this particular occasion, encounter a live, an actual real-life dragon. What I did encounter was something scary. I encountered a bull. And I've been to zoos since then. And I've seen a couple rhinoceroses and some elephanterosuses that are larger than that bull, but not by much. That bull was, well, it was the biggest bull I've ever seen. It was a, I didn't know they got that big kind of experience. And it was free ranging. We have free range here in Arizona. And he was free ranging, which meant he had a right to be there. I also had a right to be there, but that was not an opinion that was shared by that bull. And I tell you what, I ran like no little tween-age boy has ever run. There was a little pond, and I wanted to go look at it, and there might be frogs or something. I wanted to go look. And there was this bull down there. He was red. He was rust red. And massive. Unbelievably massive. And he looked at me with these yellow eyes, these baleful eyes. And he made this noise. And I screamed. I don't think I actually did scream. In my defense, I don't think I screamed. I ran away. Now, some of you were saying, Gil, you've told this story before, but that's not how you told it. You talked about climbing over the fence, over the barbed wire fence, and then you turned around, and the bull was standing right there. Yeah, that was a different one. That one I was definitely preteen. I was a little kid. And, yeah, that was a big black bull. This is the big red bull, which gave me wings. The black bull gave me wings. I know that because it took me a long time to climb over the fence, and it was very, very difficult, and took forever. And I can remember every detail of catching my poor bare feet on the barbed wire, because I never wore shoes, and I catching my clothes and ripping my shirt and ripping my pants and ripping my hands, and I was bloody and horrible and crying, and I finally got down onto the ground, and I turned around, and that bull was standing right there, and I was back on the other side of the fence with no memory whatsoever of climbing it. I don't remember that at all. I was just on the other side of the fence again and running. I have a number of stories, and they're all true. And most of them, at the end of the story, involves me running as fast as I can run. Did a lot of that. I used to be a pretty good runner. Not recreationally, you understand. Anyway, I think I told that story for a reason. And I think it was about how brave this adventurer was when he left his house, as compared to how brave he is right now, because I've had a number of experiences where those were two distinctly different levels of bravery. So I'm just kind of daubing water onto the colored pencil, and here I went over his leg out with the colored pencil, and now I'm just kind of melting that. Kind of overdid it right there. I guess I'm not gonna. I didn't get a paper towel before I sat down. So here, some Kleenex. Yeah, so there's people here. Let's see what they have to say for themselves. Stellar's here. Sharon. Kevin says hi. Hi, Kevin. John's here. Sharon says it's only a movie. That's a relief. And Lori is here, says hi. Kevin says not recreationally, LOL. John said my story like that. I was running at dawn on Rio something Boulevard in Albuquerque when a male bison broke down a fence / wall outside of made out of 2x12s. And looked at me. I turned around and was probably doing less than a 5-minute miles away from him. Good call, very good call. I would, yeah, I would probably set a world record without bothering to get somebody to time me. I would just say, bye. Yeah, it was probably impressive what I did. Had there been anyone there to see me. One time there was, I had a friend who lived in Skull Valley, and I went to visit her one time. It's in between college sessions, I guess, and we took a walk. And it was her stomping grounds. She was in very familiar territory for her, and we were in a field and heading for this gate so we could climb over it and go someplace else, and hear this sort of thundering and look up, and there's an entire herd of cows running straight at us. And I said, "Blah!" and ran and climbed over the fence and turned around to, see if she made it, and she was just standing there laughing at me, and I was like, they're cows. And she was like, they're just cows. And I said, I know they're just cows, but they're going to run us down. And she said, they're not going to run us down. They're just want to come over and say hello. And I guess they did. They just ran up to us and stood there. So I climbed back over, and shame in my face. But I made a very, very athletic leap over the fence. I'm sure it was very impressive, or would have been impressive if it wasn't so cowardly. She thought it was very funny. I've hardly been able to look her in the eye ever since. Mostly because she lives in another state and I haven't seen her, but, apart from that. So I'm using neutral gray uh, Inktense watercolor pencil, just to put some shadow under the, I haven't done a lot to imply that there's foliage, but just a little, just sort of a ragged edge to the top of the bank here, but just to imply that there's some kind of something going on. It's not just dirt and different, on different levels. And so we'll see how that melts, how that goes. That's good. It is a very neutral. It just kind of darkens the color. The author that I referred to earlier, I do love this book. Kevin McPherson, Oil Paintings with Light and Color. I don't know if he's got other books. That was probably back in 2002 or something that I bought that when I took that class. I don't remember exactly, but so we might have other books for all I know. But or he's moved away and become a nun. I have no idea. I know that at least at that period of his life, he would not have approved of what I'm doing right now. This is not the way to do it. I'd be yelled right at. And my painting teacher too. She would yell right at me. She didn't yell. She did much, much, much worse than yelling. She would walk up behind you stealthily and stand there and look at you. And when you finally realized that she was there, or sometimes when you hadn't, she would say, just this very tiny voice, a very petite little voice. She'd say, And when she said that, you were just about to get it. I guess she didn't yell at you. She just said something that just kind of tore you apart. I really appreciated her and her teaching methods. I was there to learn. And some people say, "Oh, Gil, you've said before that you don't have any art education. Now you've got stories about being at college." So I will clarify very quickly that I had an art career prior to and without going to college. Okay, I didn't leave high school, go to college, get a degree, then go out and become a professional artist. I became a professional artist, and college was something I did for myself later. And so I make a distinction, and I think it's a valid one. That college was not a preamble to my career. And, okay, anyway, I took this class at college, and the lady, she was from the Ukraine. And by the way, you don't say the Ukraine unless you want to piss her off. It's Ukraine. You don't say the France or the England. It's Ukraine. Okay, so she was from Ukraine, and had lived there under Soviet rule, and one of her grandfathers had been executed by the Soviets. One of her other grandfather was taken off to the Gulag with the expectation of ending his life there, but he came back when the wall came down. One day, when she was 10 years old, she came home from school, and the front door had been kicked off the frame, and her parents were gone, and they were gone for like a couple weeks, and no information about where they were, and she thought they were dead. Everybody thought they were dead, and then a van pulled up to the front, and they were booted out the back of the van onto the ground, and the van drove away. And it was the government, and they had they basically had just tortured them for a couple of weeks, and they made it very, very clear that they weren't torturing them because they needed information, or they thought they were insurgents, or they thought anything like that. They were torturing them because it was just important that they could do that if they wanted to. And so they wanted the community to just know, just in case you get any ideas, we can do this kind of thing anytime we feel like it. And so that's why they were tortured. So she was very anti-Soviet. And she was also very pro-democracy, pro-capitalism, pro-corporations. And if somebody made the mistake of saying in her classroom, this country's turning communist, oh my God, were you about to get an earful of, how much you have no idea. Or if you said this country is screwed up, you were going to hear what it was like to live in a screwed up country. And she was fervently pro-American, and anti-Soviet, and she was pro-capitalism, and if you said things against capitalism, you're going to get an earful about that too, and why, for all its weaknesses, capitalism is better than communism, better than socialism, whatever. And so, she had extremely strong opinions about that. and had lived in such a system and was entitled to those opinions. I'm not making a vote one way or the other. I am telling you what she said and how she felt. So there was that, and but somebody had warned me that she's got a problem with men. She doesn't get along with men, and I said that jokingly one time. Well, I think she had brought it up. She had said, people say I don't get along with men, and that's not true. And then she basically went on to say all the reasons why she had a problem with men. But so I joked a couple times that she had trouble with men, and whether she didn't like men or something like that. So if she criticized my painting, I was, oh, you just don't like it because I'm a man or something. And I was joking. I was just joking. But it didn't go over well, and it had not occurred to me that this is a cultural difference. I just thought she was one of those people that had a thing with men. But one time she comes up, she walks up behind me, sees something I'm doing, and she says, and it just because I'm a smartass. You guys know me. You probably wouldn't have I hope that you wouldn't have an issue with this, but I'm a smartass, and so she said, and I threw my paintbrush up in the air, and I said, "Oh, what now?" or something like that. I totally wanted her feedback. I was always receptive to her feedback before. But she got all hurt and said, "Fine, if you don't want," and she walked away. And then I looked. I started after. It was like, "Hey, no, wait a minute." And one of the ladies, it was all middle-aged ladies in the class, other than me. And one of the ladies just stopped me and said, "No, don't, just, I'll deal with it." So she goes over and talks to her. And I thought, well, jeepers. What's the deal? And after they had talked for a while, the teacher comes back over and she says, "Gilead?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "You were teasing me?" And I said, "Well, of course. Not really like that. You know that." And that just blew her mind, because apparently in her native culture, I don't know about Ukraine, but in Soviet culture, you could be best friend. A teacher could be best friends with female students all day long, no problem. But it was all formality with male students. You did not joke. You didn't have casual conversations. You didn't have, you didn't, chat and talk about your family or talk about your cat or, anything. It's just, that was between women. You did not do that with men. And so it's kind of this big light bulb going, oh, this is why. I still don't get it, but I mean, this is why. It's a cultural thing. It's in her upbringing. You maintained that professional distance. I don't know if if me making jokes with her made suggested superiority, or I don't respect her authority, or I don't quite know. It was something like that. It was something. I'm just not translating it well, because it doesn't translate well. But it was enlightening after a fashion. John says, "I will wonder what your teacher thinks about the situation here now. I've often wondered about her and her family, because the rest of her family stayed there. I mean, that was quite some time ago. They may be gone now, but they, yeah, they stayed there, and she was. They didn't want to leave once the wall had come down. Before then, actually, they kind of wanted to leave, but once the wall had come down, they were like, "No, we're fine. We'll stay here. It's where we know people and all of that." And then that Soviet that's currently in charge is starting to bring back the old ways, and I wonder how many people are wishing they'd gotten out, or how possible it is to get out. I don't know. I know somebody else who is Russian, but a ethnic minority in Russia. That doesn't mean black in Russia. That means that somebody that you would look at and say, "Oh, that guy's a Russian," but he's not. And he went back to go to a wedding or a funeral or something, and was a bit nervous about whether he was going to get bushwhacked and dragged into the fight, into the army. Because I mean, he left under, for them, legal conditions. There was no problem there, but as far as they're concerned, he's still one of them. He's just a citizen abroad. So if they wanted to draft him into the army, then as far as they're concerned, they could, even though he has U.S. citizenship. They don't recognize his U.S. citizenship, I think. I put the edge of my hand down on this dragon's face, and I picked up, or I put it down somewhere, picked up color on the back of my hand, and then I put my hand down right there and left a deposit of speckles and smudges. I've got to not do that. So I don't know if there's any pencil that I've gone over on here and I haven't gotten it wet. It will lift when I do get it wet. If it gets wet in the future, that color will run. And I'm a little unclear whether I did or didn't. That's a weakness with doing that on top of a surface that already has color on it, because now you don't know. If I just started on blank paper, of course I would know everywhere the color was and everywhere it wasn't. But I'm on an already painted surface, trying to not radically deviate from the colors that are already there. Just get a few darker, sharper lines here and there. And then I'm going to come back in with whites and just try to do a rim light over the top of that dragon, because he still just blends into the background a little bit more than I want him to. I don't think I'll try to do anything to modify the background. I think it's good enough. So that was just an experiment. I wanted to use that guy's painting methods to try to do a piece of fantasy art. Fantasy art has a tendency to have very crisp, clear details and not be impressionistic in any way. There are exceptions, some that I am extremely fond of, but your typical fantasy artist is doing very clean, clear illustrations, even to the point of strong outlines and very sharp contrasts of color. Here, I'll find some. One of the most prominent fantasy artists in the world today, still living, still working, is Michael Whalen. He illustrated the Dragon Riders of Pern novels. So his canvases are much bigger, but they're generally not canvas. They're generally illustration board, which is like a heavy cardboard. It's like this stuff right here, only it's surfaced with white paper. He does a couple layers of gesso, sands them, more gesso, more sanding. He does very, very detailed, very, very fine drawings. That would be an enormous pen for paintbrush for him. I don't know if he owns one that big. So he does, just goes in there, just paints. Very, very fine, very, very smooth, detailed work. That is, I believe, an acrylic painting. But you'll notice he was very careful to make sure that this central figure, who's the most important part of the picture, is framed against a black cave. The second most important part is the dragon's face, white against black. This white of his snout is a warm white, kind of a yellow, against somewhat of a purplish shadow back there. So very strategic, very careful, high contrast, very crisp edges. It's not done in outlines in black or anything like that, but they're still very, very crisp edges. No muddle, no suggested kind of thing. Although that is because he's got this nice mist with these guys, but they're still, you get down to looking at their faces and stuff, and it's pretty crisp and clean. That sort of thing. So kind of hard edge, crisp and clean. That one's nice and vague though. That was a horror book, The Peeper. So anyways, yeah, acrylics, very sharp, very clean, high contrast kind of stuff that I have often gone for, but was not attempting to do today. So, according to this one right here, I may actually be done for the day. Because I've got better things to do, don't I? I have got better things to do. So this has been fun. Thank you for joining me in my Gilead's all over the place sketchbook life. You just never know what I'm going to do, and the reason you don't know what I'm going to do is because I don't. Lori says, I wonder how sci-fi and fantasy became friends. Hey, why did you do that? Did you really have to? Do you think? Now there's water droplets all over my painting. I'm so upset I'm going to say grr. Grr. Oh, jump back. All right. She feels very, very guilty, by the way. But she reached over and grabbed my paintbrush out of my water bottle and flicked it across the table. All right, so I think that's it. And I'll probably not see you tomorrow. I forget the time. I've just got to go look at my calendar. But tomorrow afternoon, I'm having a medical procedure, and so I'm going to get shot 6 times in the back with lidocaine. Only it's a guided, X-ray guided shot to target 3 nerves on either side of my spine, and then I have to go do things that would normally hurt me. Lifting in funny ways, or things that would throw my back out, and see if I am pain-free doing that. And that way they know, yes, those are the nerves that are responsible for the pain that this guy's living with. They already know this is true, but the insurance company requires them to do this test, not just once, but twice. And so I've got to go have that done. 2 weeks later, I've got to have it done again. And then a couple weeks after that, they will go in, same place, and with a needle that's got like a heater on the end of it, and they'll ablate the nerve. They'll burn the nerve. And then I will be pain-free until it grows back, which usually takes about 18 months. So, they ask you if you've ever been there, if they say, what's your pain level today on a scale of, 0 being, 1 being no pain at all, 10 being, unbelievable, excruciating, as painful as anything has ever been in the world. I haven't been below a 5 in 15 years. I've been somewhere between 5 and 10 every day for the last 15 years, so I would like to get that 18 months and know what it's like to actually not hurt. And if that works, and we have insurance next year, which I don't think we will, but if that works and we have insurance next year, then I'll, get to keep doing it, a year from now. But we don't even know. We don't even know if it's going to work. So I've got to go have that done. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow. And I'll see you maybe the day after that. And all right, that's it. Everybody have a great day. Good night.